As a disturbance call turned into a violent confrontation between a Georgia police officer and the suspect who lunged for his gun. The very latest is that officer now fights for his life.
Everything. Integrity in the Department of Justice, his memos, and you can add into that all the interviews he's done since he separated from service.
And lawmakers, they are ready to grill former FBI Director James Comey during his blockbuster hearing on the Hill. And Robert Mueller is ready to make headlines as well, with some new details expected on the Russia probe. We are live ahead of a very busy day in Washington. And how about Santa? Santa's heartwarming message to an American hero that will make your morning. Fox and Friends First starts right now. When it is Friday, because we consider it already the weekend, although it is going to be a very busy day today. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Let's begin with this Fox News alert, though. Keeping an eye on this, a police officer shot in the face, and a suspect is killed with just one bullet. Officer Michael Smith fighting for his life following the shooting of a Georgia dentist. This happened at a Georgia dentist office, I should say. All of this started when employees called 911 to report an aggressive man. It's still unclear who shot the officer's gun. Right now, Officer Smith is in critical condition. He is a 7-year department veteran, so we'll follow this for you. Also breaking overnight, CNN given the all clear this morning after its New York City offices are evacuated for a bomb threat. Police say an unidentified man called to report 5 explosive devices inside the building. Nothing was found, thankfully. Earlier this year, you will remember, a Florida man allegedly sent a package containing explosive materials to the same CNN offices. That suspect is behind bars. No one was injured. Well, a live look at Capitol Hill for you, where in just a few hours, former FBI Director James Comey will testify behind closed doors. And we're also expecting some new details about the Russia probe and some sentencing documents against Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen today. Rich Edson joins us live from Washington with a preview of what is going to be a super busy day, possibly. But, you know anything could happen, Rich.
Yeah, that's right, Heather. Good morning. And the former FBI Director James Comey is returning to Capitol Hill in a few hours, testifying in a closed session this morning before the House Judiciary Committee. House Republicans want to ask him about his handling of the FBI's investigations into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's private email server and into Russian interference into the 2016 election. At first, Comey filed a suit in federal court challenging the subpoena to appear in this private session. He said he wanted to testify publicly. Congressional Republicans rejected that.
Why Jim Comey, who the last time I was in a public hearing with him, over 100 times he said, I cannot answer in this setting. Why Mr. Transparency wants to go back to a setting where he knows he cannot answer the questions is befuddling to me, and I don't think my fellow citizens buy that.
Last month, Comey had tweeted, quote, "Happy Thanksgiving. Got a subpoena from House Republicans. I'm still happy to sit in the light and answer all questions, but I will resist a closed-door thing because I've seen enough of their selective leaking and distortion. Let's have a hearing and invite everyone to see." Comey then agreed to drop the suit, and Republicans assured him they would release the transcript and that he could speak publicly about the interview after it concludes. As Republicans question Comey on the beginnings of the Russia investigation, we expect to learn more about its current status. Through court filings today, the special counsel's office is expected to reveal details of how it says former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort lied after agreeing to a plea deal. Mueller's office is also expected to file sentencing memos on Michael Cohen, the president's former private lawyer. Cohen is cooperating with the special counsel. This is all as the Washington Post is reporting. A judge has ordered the state and Justice Departments to narrowly reopen their inquiries into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. Heather?
Always a Friday in Washington. You know?
That's right.
All right, Rich Edson, live for us. Thank you, Rich. Well, President Trump also, on top of all that, weighing William Barr to succeed Jeff Sessions as Attorney General and oversee the Mueller probe. If chosen, it's unclear how Democrats would react to this. But national security analyst Morgan Ortega says that Barr would likely bring respect from both political parties.
It's a smart move politically if this is who the president goes with. Even with a bigger majority in the Senate, what all of this comes down to is who can the president get confirmed. And so you're going to need to see someone that can go through without a big political fight. We're already going to have to name a replacement to Nikki Haley as well. So there's going to be several big confirmations that need to get through. I think the most important thing that the administration has to do is to name someone and to move past Whitaker, because that's just been a lightning rod of criticism. And when the Democrats take over the House, I think you're going to see more investigations into him. So move on to someone well respected like this that can defend this administration.
And more on that Nikki Haley replacement coming up. Barr, by the way, would be the second attorney general to ever serve under two different non-consecutive presidents if he gets the job. Emotional farewell to our 43rd president, now at his final resting place in Texas. The Navy honoring President George H.W. Bush with a 21-plane flyover salute. And Lauren Blanchard has more from the touching tributes to Bush 41.
The train ride, one of the final events of a week of mourning, a special window giving crowds lined along the route one last look at the president's flag-draped casket. In Houston, some 1,200 mourners passing through the family's church saying goodbye to the 41st president before a private memorial service where more than 1,000 people joined to celebrate his life.
And in honoring his accomplishments, we will see that we are really praising what is best about our nation. The nation he dearly loved and whose values he embodied.
Close friend and former Secretary of State James Baker and Bush's grandson, George P. Bush, among those eulogizing the late president. Throughout the ceremony, there was a mix of celebration and solemnity, and even a few jokes, how many imagine Bush would have wanted.
When the president arrived in heaven, that Barbara was standing there with her hands on her hips, saying, "What took you so long?"
People here at Texas A&M, where the presidential library is located, say it's an honor to welcome him home.
Even though he wasn't a student here at Texas A&M, he really was an Aggie.
While the week has been full of public events honoring the late president, pomp and circumstance, the burial is private. The last goodbye solely for those who were closest to George H.W. Bush. At his presidential library, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Really has been quite a week. Well, the search for 5 missing Marines expanding off the coast of Japan. Rainstorms complicating rescue efforts after warplanes collided during a training exercise. 2 Marines have been recovered so far. One, we're told, is in fair condition. The other is dead. President Trump tweeting, "My thoughts and prayers are with the USMC crew members who were involved in a mid-air collision off the coast of Japan. Thank you to U.S. Forces Japan for their immediate response and rescue efforts. Whatever you need, we are here for you." Well, President Trump expected to sign a bill today to avoid a government shutdown. It will keep the lights on for 2 more weeks as lawmakers debate whether to fund the border wall.
Most of us, speaking for myself, consider the wall immoral, ineffective, inexpensive.
Well, the president wants $5 billion for border security. Senate Democrats say that they will set aside $1.6 billion for fencing, not a wall. Well, today marks 77 years since the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. 2,403 service members and civilians killed in the horrific assault in Hawaii. Memorials will be held all across the U.S. today, including a moment of silence at the Pearl Harbor Museum in Honolulu. American flags will be flown at half-staff until sundown. And a very lucky little girl brings Christmas cheer to Capitol Hill.
3, 2, 1. Let her rip. Yay! Look at that.
Beautiful. Bridget Harrington lighting the Capitol Hill Christmas tree. The fourth grader won the honor through an essay contest in her home state of Oregon. She's also, which is also, by the way, where the tree is from. So that's pretty cool. Before the ceremony, Bridget helped Speaker Paul Ryan decorate inside the Capitol. What a fantastic memory for her. Well, the time now is about 10 minutes after the top of the hour, and President Trump is eyeing former Attorney General Bill Barr to head up his Justice Department. So what would he bring to the Trump cabinet, and what could it mean for the Mueller probe? We'll break all of that down up next.
What is your time frame for making a decision?
No timeline on it. I'm working on it right now.
And Elizabeth Warren says that she is considering a 2020 run. Why her hometown paper, who backed her in 2016, is saying don't do it. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. First, could the president's hunt for a new attorney general be over? Former attorney general under President George H.W. Bush, William Barr, reportedly the favorite to take over the role. But would he be the right man for the job? Joining me now to weigh in is Chairman for the Committee to Defend the President, Ted Harvey. Ted, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good morning, Heather. Thank you for having me on.
So what do we know about William Barr? Would he be the right man for the job?
Well, he obviously comes to the job with great experience, having already held the position. He's well respected in the legal community, and first and foremost, he can get approved by the Senate, and that's what the administration, that's what the president wants, is to get somebody through the nomination process without any hiccups, and I think that Mr. Barr will be able to do that and get through pretty quickly.
In terms of the Mueller probe, what specifically do you think he will bring to that investigation?
Well, the president has said the entire time that he has no intention of stopping the Mueller probe. He has said that for the last 2 years, despite what the Democrats continue to hyperventilate about. The president has committed to letting the probe go forward, and I think that's what Barr will do as well when he gets in there, that he will oversee it, that he will make sure that it has sidebars on it, that the investigation's not going off into things that they shouldn't be looking at, just looking at the Russian collusion issue.
Yeah, that was some of the concerns that Democrats raised immediately with Whitaker, who was appointed just temporarily. Democrats crying foul because of some of the past comments that he had made specifically regarding Mueller and the Mueller investigation. Do you think that Democrats will have an easier time supporting Barr?
Well, for me, it's all been a bunch of political rhetoric by the Democrats. They knew Whitaker wasn't going to do anything. They knew the president wasn't going to do anything. He was just trying to make political points. And I think the Democrats are going to be hard-pressed to come up with anything on Barr to say that he shouldn't be appointed to that position with the vast experience that he has already.
All right, so let's move on to what's supposedly happening today. James Comey in the hot seat, behind closed doors, being questioned by some top Republicans. What are some of the questions that the ousted FBI director should take?
Well, I think it's important to see what has come out this week, that there is an email chain that goes back showing that the FBI and the administration knew that Michael Steele had gone to the press prior to the FBI going to the FISA court to get a FISA warrant. And that is a violation of all FBI rules and procedures of investigation. And supposedly, Comey is part of that email chain as head of the FBI. If he knew that and still allowed his department to go forward with a request for a FISA warrant with a tainted document, the dossier, and his own office saying that there's problems with this dossier, he's going to have a lot to reckon with, especially when he already told Congress that they fired Michael Steele after this came out, after the FISA had already been dealt with. If that's the case, he lied to Congress. Yeah. And I think there's a reason why he's trying to, why he asked not to be brought before Congress to have this testimony, because he didn't want to have this testimony.
So it will be interesting to see if, in fact, that's true, what you're saying, if he will be treated equally when it comes to, lying to Congress And that takes us to
right.
Manafort and Cohen. And memos expected to be released today from Special Counsel Mueller regarding both of them. What do you expect will come out of those?
Well, first, neither one of them, or Manafort, did not lie to Congress. What Manafort is being convicted of is something that he did 12 years ago, well before anything about being part of the Trump campaign or Trump collusion story. Is about tax evasion from a prior business. He had committed to Mueller that he would work with Mueller, and from what you are reporting is that he is reneging on doing that. I think that's rather telling that that's all Mueller's got, is to try to twist the arm of somebody on an offense that he did 12 years prior to the campaign. And with regards to Cohen, it appears, misspoke while testifying before Congress, and that's all Mueller's got. If that's all Mueller's got on this issue about a Russia collusion story between Trump and the Russians during the campaign, I think that that investigation's falling apart.
Yeah, so we have the Manafort-Cohen memos expected today. We have Comey testifying behind closed doors. We have Papadopoulos getting out of jail or out of prison. So a lot going on. Ted, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it on a busy day.
Thank you. Have a great day. God bless.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour. General Motors CEO Mary Barra grilled on Capitol Hill over the company's plan to send jobs to Mexico.
Our focus is on the workers. We made the announcement when we did to give them the maximum opportunity for other opportunities we have within the company.
One GM worker fighting to keep his job is here with a message for that CEO. Up next. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Senator Elizabeth Warren may run for president in 2020, but her hometown paper is warning against it. The Boston Globe editorial board writing, quote, while Warren is an effective and impactful senator with an important voice nationally, she has become a divisive figure. A unifying voice is what the country needs now after the polarizing politics of Donald Trump. Back in 2016, the Globe encouraged her to run. The board now says that she, quote, missed her moment. Well, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, has a new high-profile client.
America!
Remember her? Avenatti joining Patricia Akumo, her legal team. She was arrested for climbing the Statue of Liberty protesting immigration policies. Avenatti says that they both advocate against family separations as a result of the draconian policies of Donald Trump. That's a quote. Akumo has pleaded not guilty. If convicted, she faces up to 18 months in prison. Well, GOP lawmakers grilling General Motors CEO Mary Barra on Capitol Hill. Thousands of Americans will be laid off and 5 plants will be shut down in 2019. Joining me to discuss the company's latest blow right before the holidays is a 9-year GM employee fighting for his job, Tommy Willico. Thank you very much for joining us, Tommy. We really appreciate it this morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, first of all, tell us about, how are you and your coworkers doing right now? How did you get the news initially?
So I actually had a buddy of mine call me up and, he was in the meeting and he told me, what was said in the meeting. But I kind of I feel like I seen this coming because, it started off with the third shift, on the same day President Trump was inaugurated. That's when I lost my job. And then the second shift was laid off the same day they said that the Blazer that we were hoping we were going to get, the Chevy Blazer, was going to be built in Mexico, and we weren't going to get it. And then, with this last devastating news, General Motors basically unallocated or closing its doors, March 1st. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
And you don't just take this personally. You're a dad of 3. This is something that's run in your family. Your dad also was an auto worker?
Yes, he was. Yeah, my father, he retired out there with 42.7 years of service. I kind of was taking over the family legacy. I was out there 9 years before I got laid off. And I thought I was going to be able to have the chance to retire just like my father did. Yeah.
What about the community? How is this impacting the entire community, even those that don't work specifically at the plant impacted?
People in our area, I mean, they know that General Motors is like the heart of our community. And, you know, if you take the heart away from the body falls. And we're really afraid that, you know, the community is just not going to be able to bounce back after this. And, you know.
Listen, this is what Bara had to say. This is what she said with the meeting with lawmakers. Listen.
I feel like we had a very productive meeting. It was good for me to be able to go through everything that is going on. Right now and upcoming, so we have made tremendous investment, and the thing that I best need to do to make sure I'm living up to that is to make sure General Motors is strong going forward.
Okay, she wants to make General Motors strong moving forward, but not in any of these areas. She's talking about new jobs overseas, investments overseas. What about hardworking Americans like you and your family and all those there in your community? Does that make you angry when you hear her say things like that?
Yeah, it definitely does, because, you know, me and my union brothers and sisters, we proved time after time that we could build the quality that they asked for. You know, we could build the quantity that they asked for, and we're willing to work with them. You know, we understand that it's a business at the end of the day, and, you know, our shop, you know, our shop chairman and, you know, our president, they're willing to work with General Motors and do whatever we can to be able to, you know, build that quality car. And we feel that we deserve it. We feel that we deserve to get another vehicle in General Motors because all the hard work we've done for over 50 years, you know?
We're out of time, but do you have a message for President Trump?
President Trump, you know, our area definitely needs help. You know, you're the president of the United States, you're the CEO. Please start holding these companies like General Motors and, you know, Harley Davidson accountable for their actions. You know, I feel like a lot of corporate greed is going on, and we know you have the power to help us.
All right. He is trying to do that. Tommy, thank you so much. I love what you said about taking the heart out of the body. We appreciate it. Good luck to you and your family, especially here during the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you.
Well, the time now is about half past the top of the hour, and what started as a bipartisan effort on prison reform is now turning into a 2020 tug of war, with Democrats threatening to pull their support. Gianno Caldwell joins us live to explain what's really at stake. And Kevin Hart's gig as Oscar host is over before it even started, while the comedian stepped down from his job overnight. Well, welcome back. An MS-13 gang member in the U.S. illegally will spend 30 years behind bars for a brutal machete murder. Walter Antonio Argueta Amaya and 3 other gang members killed a Virginia man last summer in a targeted attack, hacking him nearly 150 times because he said the gang doesn't make the rules in America. The victim's body found mutilated in a creek. The El Salvador national will be up for deportation once released. Well, President Trump is considering bringing back William Barr as Attorney General. Sources telling Fox News that Barr is the frontrunner for the job. He was President George H.W. Bush's Attorney General for 2 years. If Barr gets picked, he would replace acting AG Matthew Whitaker, who took over after Jeff Sessions resigned last month. As Democrats send a letter to the DOJ demanding an in-person briefing on why they're stonewalling requests to recuse Whitaker from the Russia probe. Well, Mark Meadows revealing 3 Clinton Foundation whistleblowers have come forward with hundreds of pages of evidence. The leader of the House Freedom Caucus says the information includes the misuse of funds and allegations of false promises made to donors while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. The panel is expected to hold a hearing on the investigation next week. Agents showed up at FBI contractor Dennis Kane's home last month, you'll remember, after he reportedly turned over documents related to the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. Well, today, President Trump is expected to tweet his pick for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and sources tell Fox News that he will tap State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert for the job. If selected, Nauert would leave her role at the State Department and take over for Nikki Haley. The outgoing ambassador is expected to leave her post at the end of the year. And that would be a big congratulations to my friend Heather if that happens. Well, President Trump honoring the victims of the Parkland school shooting at the White House Hanukkah reception. The father of 18-year-old Meadow Pollack thanking the president for his support.
You are the greatest friend that the Jewish people have ever had in the White House. We have to keep fighting because the safety of our children and the future of our country depend on whether we honor the true spirit of Hanukkah.
At an earlier ceremony, the president recognized 8 Holocaust survivors, saying that they had suffered evil beyond description. Well, what was supposed to be a bipartisan effort on prison reform is turning into a 2020 platform. Democrats potentially pulling support of the legislation that hits close to home for our next guest. Gianna Caldwell says, these aren't just statistics to me. They're my family members, friends, and the people I grew up with in Chicago. The Fox News political analyst is now lobbying in Washington to pass the First Step Act, and he joins me now to talk more about it. Gianna, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me on this very important topic.
Yeah, so we said, this was supposed to be a bipartisan effort. Now it's turning into this 2020 campaign, effort. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, are Democrats actually holding it up so they can use it as a campaign, topic?
Well, we're talking about some of those presidential contenders. We talk about Eric Holder, who's been one who was opposed to it, among a number of other prominent Democrats who have said that they didn't support it. And unfortunately, those who have said it, I believe they said it because they didn't want to see President Trump or either Republicans potentially get a perceived win, which I think is very disingenuous considering the fact that in 2014, there were 6.8 million people a part of the corrections population. That's including federal prisons, state prisons, local jails, as well as those that were on parole. Of those 6.8 million people, 32%, or rather 34%, or 2.3 million of those individuals are African American. So for us in this community, the African American community, this is the most prominent issue that our community cares about. So with that being the case, we can't play politics, whether you be a Democrat or Republican, with this issue.
So you take this personally. Why do you think Democrats, some of whom you just mentioned, are apparently not taking it personally and taking it politically instead?
Well, so at this particular time, beyond those folks that had said that they didn't know if they were going to support it or perhaps they weren't going to support it. Now we're at a stage in a process where we got Republicans in the U.S. Senate, Chuck Grassley, who's been championing this issue, Jared Kushner over in the White House, who's been championing this issue. This is now in the Senate. So when I was in Washington, D.C. last week talking to members like Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Tim Scott, we were over at Marco Rubio's office, and a number of other members saying, hey, we need to push this bill to the floor because this is where we are right now. We got a number of members, the majority of the Senate caucus, that support this issue. We got a lot of Democrats in the Senate, at least, that support this issue. And if it goes to the floor, it will pass. That's why I started a petition on change.org to get people out to tell Mitch McConnell's office, we want to see this move to the floor. And I think this is one of the most important issues of my lifetime. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. When you think about what the bill actually does, it provides credits. Good credits, good service credits for those individuals who've been exemplary prisoners. So right now, if this bill were to pass and be signed into law, you got 4,000 people retroactively would be going home today. In addition, it provides judges with discretion, greater discretion when it comes to sentencing. If you know anything about what's happened in our criminal justice system, you know that the 94 crime bill pushed by both Clintons was very draconian and provided what I call call to be a mass incarceration. This would give judges greater discretion, where someone like Senator Mike Lee has said that there was an individual who attempted to sell 3 dime bags of marijuana. He got 55 years in prison. This would change that landscape. So I'm encouraging everybody to go. Go ahead.
No. Encourage everybody to go to your website, your change.org page, and we just need to get it to the floor.
Change.org. Sign a petition. We want to get it to the floor. Follow me on Instagram at Gianno Caldwell. I have the link to that petition in my bio there. We need to see this systemic change. We need it right now, and a lot of people are counting on this. So I'm encouraging everybody to continue to follow me for updates on that, because I'm going to continue to lobby this issue throughout session.
Gianno, I know you've been working around the clock to get it done, and that's been a lot of hard work, and we appreciate it. Thank you, Gianno.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good luck. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and the video is shocking. A man pushed in front of a moving truck by a complete stranger for no apparent reason. How police caught the man behind this random act. And a Fox Business Alert for you. Stock staging a massive recovery after a nearly 800-point plunge. Fox Business News' Tracy Carrasco is live with what we expect as markets close out the week.
From New York. All right, I'm not that smart. Just saying. No, I'm not making that claim.
I'm not that smart either. Oh, my God.
All right, Tucker, thank you. All right, welcome to Hannity. Tonight we have major breaking news. The Hill's John Solomon tonight has just uncovered smoking gun new evidence of FISA abuse committed at the highest levels of James Comey's FBI, including a damning email chain. Coming up, we're going to show you the damning new discoveries. Also tonight, the Mueller witch hunt is apparently winding down. The mainstream media is praying hard for the bombshell that they're not getting. And in just moments, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the special counsel's brand new report on Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. They're going back to the 1700s. I'll explain. And an American hero's life was ruined over a process crime. While many top Democrats, they got away scot-free with much worse. Tonight, we'll show you some disgusting remarks from a prominent senator we were just talking about that thinks we, the people, are pretty stupid. And later, we'll bring you the latest chapter in the war on Christmas. Get this, featuring a far-left pastor putting the baby Jesus in a cage to protest President Trump. Unbelievable. And we'll play a powerful tribute to President George Herbert Walker Bush. Stay tuned. We begin with our breaking news opening monologue. All right, little thing about me. I grew up in a house, 50 by 100 lot, surrounded by law enforcement everywhere. My mom was a prison guard for 25 years. My father, he was a family court probation officer. Many cousins were on the New York Police Department. And my 2 relatives that made it to the FBI, they were considered deity. Not kidding. But tonight, I'm shocked and frankly saddened by what is corruption and abuse of power at the very top of America's most trusted institutions. Now, breaking tonight, the Hill's John Solomon has just dropped yet another bombshell on James Comey's FBI. And according to the Hill and his report, newly unearthed emails show that top DOJ FBI officials that they engaged in a willful and organized effort to defraud a FISA court judge prior to the 2016 election. Now, we've talked about this, but we never had these emails. This all surrounds the FISA warrant application and the subsequent renewal applications of Trump campaign associate Carter Page. Now, according to those newly uncovered emails, we now know the basis for this warrant was the Clinton bought and paid for dirty dossier. Remember, the bulk of evidence. Now, James Comey, along with other top DOJ officials and FBI officials, they knew that the evidence presented in the dossier was shady at best. This is what Solomon has uncovered tonight. The email exchanges show that the FBI were aware before they secured the now infamous warrant that there were intelligence community concerns about the reliability of the main evidence used to support it, that being the Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele Russian dossier. And according to Solomon, the FBI was fully aware that Steele was, quote, had contacts with news media reporters before the FISA warrant was even secured. Now, remember, the FBI attempted to bolster its FISA application. Remember, they used what we call circular reporting, Yahoo News, and By the way, they knew the source was Christopher Steele. So it's all really just one source, but they like to create the impression for the court that there's multiple sources. No, that's circular reporting. So to recap, the FBI under President Obama, they got a warrant to spy on Trump campaign associate Carter Page at the height of the 2016 election. In order to achieve this feat, well, they had presented the FISA court judge with evidence that we now know that the FBI knew was sketchy and knew was not verified. And they themselves had doubts about it ever being true. Now, they knew the evidence was bought and paid for, too, by Hillary Clinton. That was withheld from the FISA court judges. And the evidence was bolstered with the circular media reporting that the FBI knew Christopher Steele was behind. But as we now know, that's not how so-called evidence was presented to the FISA court. So tonight, the smoking gun evidence that the FBI, under James Comey's leadership, committed a complete and total fraud on the FISA courts by presenting the court Hillary's bought and paid Russian dossier as real intelligence, and they hid the fact that the other evidence was nothing more than circular reporting. They knew it all. The email chain shows it all. Now, the evidence shows a serious miscarriage of justice, a serious abuse of power. It should shock every American, especially in light of yesterday's news. And this Friday, James Comey will testify before the House Judiciary Committee. Hopefully, he will be held accountable. Now, we did reach out to the FBI and James Comey for comment. We've yet to receive a response. John Solomon will join us with more on this devastating new report in a minute. But first, we do turn to the mainstream media's obsession of the week, once again featuring Robert Mueller's partisan witch hunt. And thanks to the latest special counsel memo on Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, well, many in the press are yet again predicting an end to the Trump presidency. This is going on for 2 years. Hasn't happened yet. Take a look.
I'm going to tell you one thing I take away. There's about a size 16 shoe going to drop here.
My takeaway was that Bob Mueller and his people have a substantial case going here.
Anyone who's in Flynn's orbit, either before the election, during the transition, and those few weeks that Flynn is the national security advisor, is worried.
If you're in Trump land tonight and these documents come down, how do you feel?
I'm wigging out.
The fact that he is saying senior government leaders should be held to the highest standards, I would be a little nervous if I were the people involved in the obstruction of justice investigation, starting, of course, with the President of the United States.
All right, despite the hysteria, predictable hysteria you just saw, the latest Mueller memo does not contain any Watergate-like revelations, not even close. Here are the facts. The Mueller memo makes references to Lieutenant General Flynn violating, and you got to pay. This is how deep they had to dig here. Violating the Logan Act. The Logan Act is an archaic law that was passed, get this, in 1799, and it was only responsible for 2 indictments in the 1800s. Now, he was also allegedly being investigated for violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA as it's called, which was used only 7 times since it became law in 1966. This is how, it's all in that memo that we had last night. This is how desperate and how pathetic Robert Mueller is. Now, remember, Lieutenant General Flynn was first a victim of a crime himself because they knew nothing about General Flynn except that they illegally surveilled him, illegally amassed him. They put aside what we now call, you're supposed to do mitigating. They're supposed to literally, once you hear an American's on the line, you are not supposed to identify them. And then raw intelligence on General Flynn was leaked. And that illegally leaked information was then used against him by Team Mueller. And Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, well, he pled guilty to a process crime. That's true. They can't get him on any other underlying crimes about collusion with Russia. And lying to Mueller's investigators, where neither Comey didn't think he lied, McCabe didn't think he lied, and Peter Strzok, who interviewed him, he never thought Lieutenant General Flynn was lying. He pleaded guilty only after, he had legal bills that were wrecking his finances, forcing him to sell his family home, nearly going bankrupt, and in all likelihood, he was told investigators would go after his son, who he did business with, so he fell on the sword in that case. Is that what justice in America is supposed to look like to you? What about Mr. Mueller? Are you happy about this? Is this what we get after your 567-day investigation? This guy served his country 33 years, 5 years in combat. According to the memo, Flynn agreed to cooperate with the Mueller investigation, but the details of that cooperation are redacted. However, the memo does detail zero evidence of collusion, none, zero, once again. And while an American military hero's life has been wrecked for a process crime, well, take a look at those on the left. You see those people there? Well, they seemingly will never be prosecuted for their lying. Longtime Clinton aides Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedi. Remember, they lied to the FBI about Hillary Clinton's private email system. DOJ official Bruce Orr or Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson likely lied. Why do we know? Because they gave completely contradictory testimony. Then we have dirty dossier author Christopher Steele. He was fired from the FBI for lying. That didn't stop him from trying to work with Bruce Orr and feed special counsel Mueller more of his phony lies in the course of this investigation. James Clapper lied under oath about the national surveillance program. So too did John Brennan, as he also likely lied under oath about leaking. And we know James Comey lied to Congress about when he wrote the report exonerating Clinton. And Comey's second in command, Andrew McCabe, was fired because of a long pattern of lying. Don't forget Lois Lerner lied to investigators about the IRS scandal. Obama's AG Loretta Lynch lied about talking to anyone on the Clinton campaign about the FBI's Clinton probe. And another Obama AG, Eric Holder, lied under oath on multiple occasions. But rest assured, Robert Mueller can now sleep well at night after taking down a decorated military hero who dedicated his entire adult life to public service, 33 years serving his country.